Hey guys, it's West here, back with another Summoner's War series. In this series, I'm going to be talking about how to progress as a beginner in 2018. Now, I've made beginner's guides before, however in 2018 there's plenty of things that have changed, and I think there's enough content to give you guys a comprehensive series and a step-by-step walkthrough of how to progress if you're just starting out. Now, I put a lot of time and editing into these videos, and I know it doesn't sound like much, but if you guys could like and subscribe to the channel, it really helps me out and it helps me grow. It also shows me that you guys like the content. Also, be sure to comment below if there's any questions or anything you feel wasn't covered correctly. So let's hop right into it. So where you start off with, you have this girl called Elia. She's giving you basic instructions on, summoning monsters, all the basic mechanics of the game. Now, if you're brand new to the game and you know nothing about the game, I would highly recommend listening to these little beginner tips that she gives, as they will be helpful if there's mechanics in the game you don't understand. So right here is our first run with the monsters they give you in the beginning of the game. The first thing I'd recommend to do is change your speed to ×3, as it makes the whole process a little bit faster. Now if you want to stop and watch the animations, I can't blame you, but putting it at ×3 is going to be the fastest way to progress. Now, in the very beginning, what you're going to be doing is you're going to be manually attacking each monster on the opposing side, so you have to select the ability that you're using with each monster. Now with the Fire Hellhound, the second skill is going to deal more damage, but the first skill is going to heal him. The first skill of the Water Fairy is going to deal 3 hits of damage and potentially freeze the target, meaning that they don't get a turn, and the second skill is going to heal. So, select whichever skill makes most sense in the situation. Now here Elia is teaching you about powering up runes and engraving runes on your monsters. Runes are going to be the deciding factor when it comes to what dungeons you pick and what dungeons you farm, and different monsters of course will require different types of runes. So you start off here in the very first stage of the game with the energy set. The energy set is going to provide your monster with max HP, so you're going to get more HP based on the starting HP of your monster, or whatever the base HP of your monster is, and as your monster levels up, their stats are going to increase. And you see that here when the Hellhound gets leveled up to level 2, you see its base stat got increased. So HP, attack, and defense will all increase when you level up your monsters, and subsequently when you evolve them into higher star ratings, but we'll get onto that later. Now, leveling up your monsters is going to be the easiest way in the very beginning of the game to gain the most stat potential, as most of the time runes aren't going to give you huge upgrades until your monster is a high enough level to really take advantage of them. So you can see here, each scenario that you clear once you've cleared the final stage, or stage 7 of it, is going to provide you with some sort of bonus reward. This one is the light Elven Ranger. In addition, there are drops you can get as well as runes from these stages. Now, Elia talked about this a little bit and is going to talk about this more, but each different stage of scenario will provide you with a different rune slot. Now, stage 1 will provide you with a slot 1 rune. Stage 2 will provide you with a slot 2 rune, and so on. And stage 7 has the possibility of dropping any slot of rune. Now, farming a scenario mode does not guarantee you a rune drop. You can also receive other drops like mana by itself, which is the currency used for powering up runes and buying certain items in the magical shops. You could also receive unknown scrolls. Unknown scrolls are used to summon 1, 2, and 3 stars, and it's where you get your Wind Vagabond and your Fire Hellhound from in the beginning of the game. Most of the time you're going to see a 1 star, sometimes you'll see a 2 star, and if you're lucky you'll get a 3 star out of those scrolls. Just so you understand, getting a 3 star is pretty rare. If you do get one, that's amazing, but don't hold your breath for one, as the 2 star monsters are going to be the easiest to obtain from the scrolls. And 1 star monsters just aren't really worth building. As they explained in the beginning, 2 star monsters are the ones you want to focus on, when you're first starting, and 1 stars are pretty much just food to level them up. Now you could also eventually evolve them to turn them into 2 stars to use as food, but again, that's something we'll get into later when we work on leveling up monsters. Now here we have a basic guide of which slot you get from which stage, and this applies to every stage and scenario. When you beat that number of stage, you're going to get that number of rooms. So now you just go ahead and clear through the rest of the scenario up to the boss stage. Now here's the boss stage. This boss can be difficult in the very beginning just because it's RNG based. It's completely random whether or not the boss gets an additional hit. There's a probability to it, and sometimes the boss will get a bunch of additional hits and take out your units, so don't worry if you fail it. Honestly, just try again. Sometimes you'll need more than one try for these boss stages because there are some elements like this, right there where he took out my Fire Hellhound, where this sort of thing can happen. Now, make sure you use the Water Fairy's second skill. If you have a defense break on your unit, it will show a shield with a slash through it. That defense break greatly increases the damage that enemies are going to deal to the unit with that defense break. So if you have a defense break on your unit, the chances of them dying is much higher since it's going to increase the enemy's damage. Now here you see we get a random slot for completing this stage. Now completing this stage is also going to afford us the Light Elven Ranger. This is a unit I might touch on later, but in the early stages of Summoner's War and clearing the scenario, I'm not going to choose to build it because we are going to get the Water Magic Knight from this second stage. Now, although the Light Elven Ranger isn't extremely exciting in my opinion, the Water Magic Knight is something to behold. She's going to be the first natural 4-star monster that you receive in the game. The natural 4-star and natural 5-star monsters are going to have a lot higher stats than natural 3 and natural 2-star monsters, as well as having different kits. And by kits, I mean different sets of abilities that can achieve certain goals. The Water Magic Knight is very good at clearing the earlier stages of the game, being Scenario, being your early stages of Giants, which we'll touch on later. The Water Magic Knight overall is a well-rounded damage dealer that can apply self-healing, apply defense break, and has multiple abilities that attack all of the enemies, or AoE abilities, which can affect a wide range of enemies. So getting her is going to be our first major step. So you're just going to want to go through here and farm up and get your runes. When you get these fatal runes, you could go ahead and put them on the Fire Hellhound. The fatal runes are going to give an attack percentage bonus for 35% attack just by having the set. So you don't need to worry about what the stats are right now. However, having him on this rune set is going to allow him to have more attack percentage. So you just want to get the full fatal set, which is a 4 set, meaning that you need 4 runes in any slot as long as there's 4 total fatal runes in order to get this bonus. Now, 35% might not sound like much, but it really adds up in terms of damage because there's multipliers that come into play. There's all these different things that determine how much damage your unit's going to deal, and just increasing their overall attack is going to increase their damage for this Fire Hellhound in particular. So here we have footage of the boss battle. So this is what I did to take down the boss. Now I got lucky and hit some defense breaks with the Wind Vagabond. That defense break that you apply with your team is going to really impact how much damage your Fire Hellhound deals, and I guess how much damage the rest of your team deals, but mostly it's going to increase the amount of damage that the Fire Hellhound deals, which is really, really nice because that's the unit that's going to do a lot of damage when you're just clearing for the first time. And now that you've defeated this boss stage, you're going to be getting the Water Magic Knight. Now, if you're having trouble with the stage, you can go ahead back through each of the stages in Mount Sis, which is the name of this scenario mode, and farm for more Fatal Runes to improve the quality of your Fire Hellhound. You could also level him up with 1 stars, powering him up and level him up a little bit more, but you shouldn't have too much trouble if you just try it once or twice. Now, after you have beaten this stage, you are going to get the Water Magic Knight in your box, which is really, really exciting because this is the unit that's going to carry you through pretty much the rest of this scenario, and probably through Giants as well. This is a very, very powerful unit, and it is basically the main farmer you're going to have, and the farmer is going to be the unit that basically carries your weaker units to a higher level, allowing them to increase their stats and increase their usability. So now that you've gotten her, I'd highly recommend locking her. There's a little gear icon there you could click on and you could lock your monsters. This makes sure that you don't accidentally feed them in the power-up circle. I'd recommend doing this with all the monsters you plan on using. Now, once you have done that, you can go ahead back into Mount Sis, and I would recommend farming for a basic fatal set for the Water Magic Knight, the same way you did for the Fire Hellhound. This is going to increase her stats and give her a little bit more damage to help you progress through the rest of the scenario. So you can just farm whatever. The rune slots don't matter. Flat attack on all of the slots helps. On the slot 2, 4, and 6 helps increase our damage, because percentage really early in the game when your monster's really low level, especially just with 1 and 2 star fatal runes, flat attack is better than attack percentage. However, as you progress through the game, you're going to want to eventually get attack percentages. You see here, I was lucky enough to get an attack percentage in slot 2, so the only slots that you can get percentages in are in slot 2, 4, and 6. That's where you could get your attack percentages and your defense and your HP percentages. We're going to go really in depth into runes later on in this video. So basically, you can get your runes, you can power them up to +3, get a little bit of bonus. I wouldn't recommend putting too much mana into powering this up, as mana is going to be a scarce resource as you progress further. And yeah, you just want her to be strong enough to be usable. So next we're going to go through Kabeer Runes. This is the team I'm using to go through pretty much the same thing as you did with Mount Sis, and now we're at the boss stage. Now I cut out most of the in-between because there's not too much to show. Like I said, make sure to pay attention to which monsters are using what. Make sure to pay attention to that elemental advantage. Water monsters are going to be weak against wind, fire are weak against water, and wind are weak against fire. So make sure you pay attention to that elemental advantage and really take advantage of it. And make sure you keep trying until you clear all the stages. You shouldn't need too high of rune quality to clear through this. You shouldn't have any trouble clearing through this, as I was able to do it with very little rune quality. Make sure you're focusing on one monster at a time, because if you're attacking too many different monsters at once, you're letting them have too many turns while they're alive. Now from this, you're going to get your free energy set. 6 energy runes that are green, meaning that they have 1 substat already. The better the rarity, the more substats you get for free. And this is what I would recommend putting on your Wind Vagabond. This is going to allow your Wind Vagabond to be tankier, which is going to increase his damage output, increases survivability, and wind monsters are going to be really useful later on. Next we have Mount Ragon White, where you're going to get your Swift Runes. And again, I have another boss battle here. It shouldn't be too difficult, but you can see even I fail here. And if you fail, no big deal. Go back, increase your rune quality, and try again. So here I'm going to be getting those the 3-star energy runes and putting them on my Wind Vagabond, because like I said, wind units are going to be pretty powerful in the next few stages, as there's going to be a lot of water monsters that you're dealing with. Now just go ahead, pop those bad boys on them. You could even bring them up to +6 if you're really worried about survivability. Make sure to power up his slot 2, 4, and 6. You don't really have to worry about the 1 and 3, and then you could even bring his slot 5 up to +3 or +6, because the only thing you're trying to do is increase his HP percentage. He does damage based on HP, he's going to survive based on his HP. So increasing that is going to give him more survivability and more damage. So moving forward, he's going to be really important because he provides that defense break, and you really don't have any other unit that provides it as often as he does. The Water Magic Knight defense breaks on the 2nd skill, but when you're dealing with wind monsters, there's a chance that you're going to hit a glancing hit, meaning that your effect is not going to be applied to that monster. You can see attribute advantage is pretty important moving forward. However, in the early stages, the Water Magic Knight does enough damage to really just clear through, as you may have seen in Kabeer Runes clears, where you're dealing with those, the natural 1-star monsters that are wind. The Water Magic Knight can kind of plow through those. Now, if you have extra 1-stars laying around, you could use them to power up your Water Magic Knight, which I would highly recommend, because like I said earlier, increasing the level of your monster is going to increase their base stats. And then their base stats are going to be affected by their runes. So the higher level your monster is, the more benefit they're getting from runes, the more just raw stats they're going to have in addition. So early on, having your monsters, leveled up as much as possible is going to really help you clear if you're having any trouble. And so there's just a short clip of my runes on each monster if you're curious about those. I'm actually going to go back and farm for the other slots for my monsters, and I kind of just go through. Here I go into hard mode, because this is, pretty much the only 4 monsters you need to clear a hard mode. You don't need to have, really high level on them. They don't need to be specifically a particularly high level. You could just go back in here with this team and auto it. So you have the auto function. You should have been using that already, but if you're not, I'd highly recommend you use that, because for stages like this where you know for a fact your units are going to be strong enough, or you've done it before and you know your units are strong enough, then doing this is going to be, a lot faster than you manually clicking, because you can't click as fast as the game could automatically make decisions. And when it comes to just farming for runes, this is going to be the best way to do it. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to farm here. I'm going to get some hopefully 2 and 3 star energy runes. I'm honestly just trying to get the set bonus, because extra HP on our Magic Knight is going to give her survivability. Extra HP on any of our units is going to help them survive. And for your Magic Knight, I would also recommend going Fatal Energy, just because you get the attack bonus and you get the HP bonus. So here I get my first 4-star rune. So from hard mode you can get 2, 3, and 4-star runes, whereas in easy mode you could only get the 1, 2, and 3-star runes. And then in hell mode you can get 3, 4, and 5-star runes. If you're lucky, you can get those 5-star runes. But all we were focused on is getting 3-star runes, and you can see we could even auto this hard boss stage as well. Also, completing these stages on harder difficulties is going to unlock challenges for you, or complete goals, which will give you rewards like mana. Sometimes they'll give you scrolls, and sometimes you'll even get some crystals. So here are some of the runes that I've been grinding for. I'm putting a crit rate on slot 4 on the Water Magic Knight, just because it's better than the flats that I had there previously. However, putting attack percentage there, or even flat attack, would be better overall value for her, since we're really not going to be able to take advantage of any sort of crit rate just yet. And this is something else we're going to be talking about in the next episode when it comes to, the right runes for each monster. So here's the stats of my Water Magic Knight. Those are her runes. I mean, really crap runes, but like I said, it doesn't really matter. The only thing we're going for is those set bonuses early on. You don't really have to stress too much about that. Now, something really important that's going to be a huge game changer coming forward is going to be those challenges from Reyna. Reyna is a AI, or a in-game player, I guess I should say, like a computer, who talks to you much like Elia about challenges in the game. She's going to teach you about some basic mechanics, and you unlock her at level 8. And this is going to be huge, because the amount of rewards you get from Reyna's challenges are really, really significant. Some things that I didn't have when I first started the game, and they're really going to help push you forward in progression. Now, I'm not quite level 8 yet, so what I'm going ahead and doing is I'm claiming all these challenges. It's going to refresh all my energy, so if you're out of energy, this is a good way to gain energy before you're like level 30, because you really don't want to be doing refreshes with the crystals, the 30 crystal refreshes, because if you do it at too low of a level, it's kind of inefficient. I guess you can if you're really, really fiending to play Summoner's War. I can understand that, but I'd highly recommend claiming these challenges and leveling yourself up if you're able to do so. And you can see I hit level 8, so I've unlocked Reyna's challenges. Reyna's challenges are where we're going to get the next monsters for our progression in scenario. So there's 6 different challenge boards. The monster training, there's the magic, there's the farming, there's the giants, there's the other areas, and then there's the fusion table as well. So in each different board, you want to clear as far as possible and get all the challenges. So what we're going to do is we're going to hop in a Giants B1, just throw in whatever monsters you've been using to farm through scenario, and then whatever food monster, it doesn't matter what you put in there really, you're going to be able to clear it, because Water Magic Knight's just going to do damage. And clearing this B1 is going to unlock the Giants challenges. And the Giants challenges are really important, because there's 2 monsters we're going to get from it that are going to greatly impact our progression here in scenario, and then later on in Giants, all the way up to Giants B10. So we're looking for Shannon the Wind Pixie and Bernard the Wind Griffin. These 2 units are going to provide really, really useful, beneficial effects for our team, and some debuffs as well. Debuffs being the harmful effects like defense break, attack break, attack speed slow, making the enemy slower, weaker, and able to take more damage. So you're basically trying to reduce the enemy's stat, which effectively increases your entire team's stat when you do that. As well, Shannon also provides an attack buff and defense buff, which gives your team some more resilience against some hits from the stronger units that you deal with in the scenario, like this giant here. And also increases your damage output, which is going to increase the speed at which you clear things, and just your damage, because you want to increase your damage as much as possible, because the higher the damage you have, the less tanky your team needs to be. and this is a concept we really expand on as you progress through the game, slowly turning your tanky team into a damage dealing team. Now here I get really lucky with a 3-star rune with speed on it. We're going to use this on our beginner supports, either Bernard, Shannon, or Konamaya, another unit we're going to deal with. Now, we've already unlocked Arena. If you chose to do Arena, that is great. If you complete the first battle, then you will unlock the Light Garuda. Now, if it is not Fire Day, or if it is not Monday, and the game does not have the Fire Dungeon open, so you can't do the first Fire Challenge and unlock the Konamaya that I'm going to do shortly, then I highly recommend you use the Light Garuda in place of the Konamaya. There's other units you could switch out in these teams along the way. However, for the very first clear of scenario, I wouldn't recommend too many changes, I guess, unless you summon, but the whole point of this series is to be completely free to play. We're not going to rely on any paid resources whatsoever. We're not spending a dime, and we're pretty much just trying to use what the game gives us. We're not going to be using anything too crazy as we progress. So here's the Hall of Magic. This is where you farm essences. Essences are what you use to awaken your monsters. When you awaken your monsters, it increases their base stats significantly. It sometimes also gives an additional ability or something called a leadership skill, which is, pretty powerful in terms of most teams. It's going to increase your entire team stats by whatever the leadership skill states. Something we see with the Water Magic Knight, of course, increasing attack. So here we go. We completed the first stage. Now, we're not doing this in order to, awaken anything just yet. We're doing this to complete these challenges. When you complete Giants B1, you unlock the Giants Keep Master challenges, and when you complete Magic B1, you unlock the Daily Dungeon Tips challenge. And now it's pretty easy to get all these rewards. Now, just by looking at the strategy info, you're going to get an unlock for Giants, so you just have to look at the monsters used in Giants. And while you're there, I'd recommend you look around and see what some other players are using. You could see statistics that are based on what other players use in the dungeons, which is kind of nice if you're confused about which monsters to bring to the dungeons. You could see a lot of people are using the Magic Knight, Bernard, they're using Shannon, they're using a monster called Beladian, someone we'll touch on later as well. And, you really get an idea of what other players are doing, which is really nice, because if you ever hit a brick wall or you're not sure about what you should be doing, it's kind of nice to hop in there and see what other players are doing to get some point of reference. So here I just went through and I cleared Giants B3. That was a really lucky Fatal Rune I got. It was one try in Giants B3. So we're going to go ahead and put that on our Lapis, or our Water Magic Knight, since it's a really, really lucky, strong rune. For a 3-star rune, it has maximum speed and maximum crit rate, and it's got good attack. And we'll talk about this later, but in terms of what the rune could be proportionate to it being a 3-star, this is an extremely lucky rune. Of course, it's not going to make a huge difference, as 3-star runes are going to get phased out very, very quickly the second we complete Faimon, which is our initial goal here. Of course, as you may be able to tell by the title of this video, we are going to be ditching 3-star runes and looking for the 4 and 5-star runes. Now, we're only level 8, and we're already getting 3-star runes on our main units. That's what we're trying to do. Now we have Shannon unlocked. We're going to go ahead and put her in this team. You can see here are the stats that I have for her on a very basic Swift set. She has nothing in slot 2 or slot 6, so we're going to want to eventually put speed there. But right now, just worry about completing that basic Swift set, because that extra 30 speed or whatever you get as a result of the Swift set is going to be great. You don't even need to worry about powering it up, really. If you're worried about her survivability, you can +3 her slot 5 rune, or you can put on an energy offset as well. So I'm going to go ahead back here and I'm going to farm some energy runes for her. And then we come back. I got just a 2-star flat defense rune. I farmed 2 runes, one for the slot 2, one for the slot 6 for Shannon. Again, I don't have speed there yet, even though I want speed there ideally. I just have some really basic runes to give her a tiny bit more HP, which is going to help her survivability a little bit more. We also farmed some energy runes for the Magic Knight, because we hadn't previously, and we got lucky enough to get this 4-star rune from a hard stage. And it's a 4-star attack percentage, so it's pretty good. It's going to provide our Lapis or our Water Magic Knight with some additional attack percentage, as well as still getting that awesome bonus from the energy set, giving her a little bit more survivability. We could bring this up to +6 or even +9. Once you start getting 4-star runes, you could go up to +9. However, I wouldn't go any higher than that because, again, we are going to be replacing these runes eventually. This is just to help with the initial scenario clear. You don't have to worry about getting these specific runes for each unit. However, if you're wondering why your team is failing, or you're trying to clear a stage that I cleared with the same monsters and you're having trouble doing it, then I would check out the stats that I have on each unit. I do frequently stop and show my stats. Here's what the rune powered up to on +9. Next, we are clearing the rest of this stage. Again, we have a wind boss here, but even with Magic Knight being water and being weak against wind, it's not really too big of a concern because we have the Shannon here to give us an attack buff and defense buff, which is going to give us some durability and increase our damage output. Also, here's another place where the Wind Vagabond really shines. The Wind Vagabond providing the attack break on the Chimera can give you some survivability, as well as the that with the defense break, your team won't really take a lot of damage. And then you have the glancing debuff from Shannon. Glancing is essentially what your monster can do if they're weak against something attribute-wise, like if water attacks wind, you can glance, which greatly reduces your damage. And that's an effect that you could apply on a monster, on an enemy monster, and they could essentially glance on you even if they're elementally strong against you. If they have any sort of advantage against you, they could still glance with that glancing debuff. So basically having Shannon in our team really helps our team survive and really helps us push forward. So now we're going to go ahead and do this arena stage that I talked about earlier. This is what unlocks you the light Garuda. Now, in the coming stages of scenario, if it's not Fire Day, like I said, and you can't get the Water Garuda, all you have to do is kill Greedy or beat his monsters in Arena, and then you'll go ahead and unlock the Light Garuda, who will also help. The big thing we care about is the second skill of the Garudas, called the Research skill. It attack buffs one of your units and instantly fills up their attack bar, giving them a turn. And that's really neat because it's essentially like having an extra Water Magic Knight in our team, because we give her an extra turn and also give her an attack buff. This is the team I used to clear the next boss stage in scenario. Runes haven't really changed at all on any of these units. I have 2 energy sets on the Water Fairy. I have a Fatal energy set on the Water Magic Knight, 3 energy sets on the Wind Vagabond, and a Swift energy set on Shannon, the Wind Pixie. So fairly easy to clear these first stages. The trouble doesn't really come to any of our teams for a while. Also, as you do level up your monsters, I highly recommend you use the food you get to evolve them to the next star rating. That is another thing that will greatly increase their stats, and then you can level them up with some 1-star food. This is just to get them up to par faster, because when you evolve them to the next star rating, it is going to set them back down to level 1. So the next area, Tamor, is going to allow us to get the Fatal set, so that's what we want to do next. So we're going back to Giant Speed 3 to unlock our Wind Griffin, the Bernard, and you can see I just got smacked there and destroyed. So I just tried again, and this time I manualed it. You can't always auto everything, so sometimes you're going to need a manual just for like the single completion. Just hit level 10, and now we completed that. So now we get our Bernard. We're going to go ahead into our box and we're going to grab our Bernard out of it. And you could grab the Light Garuda at this point, like I said, if it is not Fire Day for you. And we're going to get some basic Swift runes for our Bernard, and then head back into Tamor, where we're talking about could be difficult before. So here's the boss stage with the Bernard, Shannon, Water Magic Knight, and the Wind Vagabond. This stage is not too difficult now that you have 3 wind units that all provide useful debuffs to the enemy. Your Wind Vagabond does a good amount of damage. The only problem here is this guy regenerates himself, so maybe your Water Magic Knight might die, but the rest of these 3 guys should be able to pick it up if you have progressed this far. So clearing this is also not super difficult. Bernard is going to give your team extra speed, even if they're slow. The Shannon is going to buff you up and make you stronger, and you have 3 sources of defense break. You have Bernard, the Wind Vagabond, and the Water Magic Knight. So you auto-land that defense break, and that'll increase your entire team's damage. Not too hard to defeat, and now we get these 4-star runes. So you're going to put these runes on your Water Magic Knight, because Water Magic Knight needs those good Fatal runes. These Fatal runes are going to be beastly, and next we're going to go on to Vrolfagus runes. and use these 4-star Fatal Runes. So here I had the Wind Griffin in my team, but he died, so these are the units that I'm using. This is where you would start using your Garuda and start increasing the amount of turns that your team gets. Now, the third skill on both of the Garudas allows you to gain health back, which is really nice, and it's going to give you survivability. But you could see I cleared it pretty fast, pretty easy. And now we get the double XP booster and the energy. This is going to be useful for leveling our monsters up. You can see I have some extra Garudas that I'm using to skill them up. Skill ups are really important as well. In the very, very early game, not as important, but if you have skill ups for units, I'd recommend using them. Now here is the final goal, completing Faimon. You should be able to do it with these 4 monsters. If you have any trouble, I want you to go over into your community area. I want you to go down to mentors and add a mentor. You could use your 5 mentors to complete most of the stages, and then you can use Durand to complete the final stage. Now, this is the end of the first episode where we have completed Faimon Normal and we've cleared it. So if you guys have any questions about that, go ahead and leave them below. But this process was about a 4-hour process. It wasn't too difficult. You can definitely do this faster if you're more focused on it than I was, because I was doing this while farming other things. But yeah, that's about it for this episode. If you guys have any questions or comments, be sure to leave them below. And if you enjoyed, please like the video and tune in for the next one.